Welcome. Today is July 9th, 2020. You are listening to Counterculture with Aaron Lujan. Today's episode 41, the top news stories for July 9th. And my goal tonight is to keep it under 30 minutes. I went an hour yesterday. Can you believe it? That is crazy. I can't believe I did it. I ended up, you guys, before we get the podcast started, it was I think it was so I misspoke in the Facebook broadcast. I believe this is my second attempt to give you the top news stories of the day. And yesterday I had no idea what I was doing, and I got so into all the different stories that I ended up allocating, I think, 50 stories, and it ended up taking me an hour to get through it. So today I'm a little bit wiser, a little bit whiter, not white skin, but white hair, because everything's racist. Apparently, my hair is racist. It's clearly saying white power. But I am going to cut the beard, though. So, for those of you listening, it sounds insane. For the one person that's watching on Facebook, it makes perfect sense. So, anyways, let's get started. I'm excited. Are you guys excited? This is exciting. I'm browner than usual because it is summertime in the Northern Hemisphere. Speaking of weirdness, Subway bans open carry of firearms in restaurants nationwide, according to Breitbart News. This is another example, in my opinion, of fascism and how corporations will enforce the rules and not government. I think Orwell, who is the famous author, although that's a pseudonym of the apocalyptic 1984, envisioned a world where there would be this tyrannical control at the hands of an almighty government. And in reality, what we have is a fascist system, and not fascism by the definition of Antifa and the corporate media, but true definition of fascism, which is the mergence of corporate and governmental powers. And we're essentially seeing that today, where the government doesn't need to pass edicts to ban free speech or ban the Second Amendment. They just need to incrementally do it through a compartmentalized corporate system like Subway, saying you can't enter our stores unless you without carrying your firearm. What really happened? What really happened is reported. That's actually the name of the publication. What really happened? $1 billion Planned Parenthood takes 150 million in government relief loans. So if you guys remember when the payroll protection program was rolled out, this was for small businesses who were affected by the pandemic. This was not for the human baby butchering organizations, nor was it for Nancy Pelosi's husband's chain of restaurants, nor was it for PF Chang's, who apparently got a lot of money. This was for my clients, you guys. This is for the small restaurant. This was for the, the water remediation company in Pueblo, Colorado. Although, my boy, I know you're probably listening. I know you didn't get that PPP money. But that's what it was designed for. And sadly, Planned Parenthood, which is in the business of murdering children, received 150 million while they were in possession of 1.9 billion in net assets, and saw its total annual revenue exceed 1 billion in 2017 and 18. Not to mention that in late May, Planned Parenthood applied for roughly 80 million in aid from the program. $80 million. So clearly, you guys, we the taxpayers have created a piñata, a piñata to basically be swung at by large corporations, and the candy is all on the ground, and you guys just go ahead and get it. All of our hard work and labor is for Planned Parenthood and large corporations. WorldNet Daily is reporting indictments coming in Russia investigation. So if you guys have been paying attention, we've had Obamagate on deck, but that's been a huge distraction that has been hidden from the huge distraction of global pandemics and color revolutions known as the Black Lives Matter movement. So what we have is John Solomon, who is an investigative reporter, saying that the Justice Department is trying to bring those first indictments in the debunked failed Russia investigation. So if you guys remember, the Democrats and the Obama administration were illegally spying on Trump, and then later claimed that Trump was colluding with Russian government in swaying the election and their wild conspiracy theories. Well, in reality, they ended up revealing their own criminality. I always tell my wife, the Democrats and the Republicans or Trump and the Democrats remind me of the Roadrunner and the, what's it called? Warner Brothers. It's 12 o'clock, guys. The Roadrunner and the Coyote. Every time the Coyote tries to get the Roadrunner, it never works. In fact, the Coyote always ends up hurting himself. So I think it's appropriate that the Democratic Party change their logo from the donkey to the coyote. Plus, it's also appropriate because they support Mexican coyotes, which are the ones who bring drugs and people across the border. So you guys think it's a great idea. Anybody who has friends high up in the Democratic Party, let them know my idea. Quote, there is an overwhelming evidence in the public record now that crimes were committed. Quote, there is overwhelming, I repeated myself twice. So apparently, buckle up. Falsification of documents, false testimony, false representation before the FISA court is what we're looking at in terms of indictments. So like my leftist friends on Facebook, every time the Mueller report was about to come out with something, they always had their little popcorn emoticons like, ooh, Trump's done. Trump's done. Amazon removes Washington Redskins merchandise from site, according to Fox News. The NFL franchise is racist because they're using an American Indian. I shouldn't say Indian. That's actually a racist term. So I apologize. I got Indian blood, so I guess in today's identity politics, I'm allowed to say that. I don't know. I'm not allowed to say it. Following Walmart and Target, Nike and Dick's Sporting Goods that have already removed Washington's merchandise from their stores. Gab Trends is reporting, is America heading for civil war? Of course it is. This was a fascinating article, you guys. I would definitely, well, first of all, change your news source to gabtrends.com. It's what news should be. The editorial board are the people, not a bunch of elitists, Zionists, quote-unquote progressives, and some high-rise in New York City. It's actually what really matters to flyover America, Main Street America, we the people, not the coastal elites in New York and LA. American balkanization and the rapid migration of conservatives and moderates from large population centers. I'm an example of that, you guys. If any of you know my story, I grew up in California most of my life. I moved there as a little small child and lived there up until about 5 years ago, and noticed that California was increasingly becoming more and more tyrannical, more and more loony, more and more not a place to want to raise a family. And I moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where a lot of like-minded people live, and it's a place to escape the progressive hell that is becoming California. And I lived in a relatively conservative area of California, North County, San Diego, which by California standards is considered conservative, but had to do it. This article points out the reason for this, and I'll agree with it, that rational and reasonable people are willing to leave behind their old life and risk it all to keep a margin of freedom. The costs are not outweighing the benefits. Apparently, the California sunshine and the fact that you have friends and family and lived in a certain place your whole life, which is typically the reason why people stay in places, is giving way to the fact that they're just freaking out and scared because, wow, transgendered bathrooms, that still is a crazy thing to me. There can be no reconciliation between the two sides, so we must separate or we must fight. Okay, guys, I'm going to have to pause really quick because, of course, my camera is running out of battery. So I'm going to attempt to do this plugged in. It's going to be like sideways. You guys, can you guys deal with it if I lean with it? or should I just rock with it? I'm gonna lean with it. Is that? Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to. If you guys are watching on your phone, just pretend it's a California earthquake. For those of you listening, my camera's sideways. Um, so I'm just gonna lean like a cholo on Facebook for a little bit. Let's get back to the podcast while we get some juice. Clearly, this is a very non-professional podcast. There can be no reconciliation between the two sides. We must separate or we must fight. Conservatives are the primary producers within American culture. If we leave the leftists to their own devices, there is a chance they will simply implode in on themselves. I'm literally reading from the article, which I try not to do every night, because it was so well written and it encapsulated the sentiment so well. War is probably inevitable. Why? Because collectivists and narcissists are never satisfied. I had a friend over for dinner tonight, and he was asking me, you know, well, I was posting things on Facebook, very moderate, not controversial. I didn't express my opinion. I was just celebrating 4th of July and saying things that were very reasonable. And why would people be upset with that? And I explained to him, brother, there's no appeasing radical leftist. It is submission or nothing else. You don't go, and the Republicans, I think, politically have proven this to us, that for decades they just roll over and roll over and roll over and continue to play games. And the left, give them credit, they keep taking and taking and taking and pushing. You guys, they're not going to stop. We're in a war. That's the reason why I call my podcast Counterculture. I have recognized and acknowledged the reality that I live in, that I'm on a battlefield and I'm one of many culture warriors trying to speak truth and reason to people who still care to hold on to their God-given logic, reason, and mind, and haven't been completely conquered by the collectivists and the groupthink and the mob. So, we're going to war. Eventually they will come after us, and there will be no doubt about our response then. There will be no way to spin the result in their favor, no way for them to play the victims. Before any civil war, there is first a culture war. It is how we enter the fight that is more important than the fight itself. The political left is a tool for a greater agenda. They are being used as a weapon of chaos by globalist interests. So true. I think of friends, I think of family members who I love dearly and are good, well-meaning people. And it breaks my heart. I don't see them as my enemy. I have sympathy because I understand the game that's being played. They're being used as pawns in a larger game. They are being used as a weapon of chaos by globalist interests. Chaos creates fear. COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, chaos, right? Fear creates division and crisis. Left versus right, burning cities, and crisis creates opportunity. Microchip, loss of freedoms, the suspension of the First Amendment, the suspension of the Second Amendment. Trump's presence in the White House would drive the left insane, as well as give the globalists a perfect conservative scapegoat for the economic collapse they had been engineering since at least 2008. And this really appeals to my libertarian, never Trump side, because I haven't fully paid for my Trump train ticket yet. I'm kind of like running alongside the train, like wondering if I can jump in on the last minute. Because I'm just not on there for the reason that I for one, I'm distrustful of anyone who's in government. But secondly, the presence of Trump isn't the end all be all. Man will not save us. Only God is capable of saving humankind and humanity. Number two. Number three, if you look at this politically, yes, he is surrounded by global elitists. Look at his son-in-law. Look at the head of the Treasury. Look at a number of people in the administration. These are not populist figures. These are globalist figures. And the economy will collapse. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because it's a matter of mathematics. We're eventually going to run out of money. We cannot print our way out of our problems. there will be an economic collapse. It's a mathematical fact. You eventually run out of other people's money. And when that happens, uh, it would be great for globalists to blame Trump on this, which is why I'm a little concerned that an economic collapse may come sooner than later. Trump's cabinet of global elitists suggests his complacency in this plan. We live under a one-party system, pretending it's a two-party paradigm. And I'll end it with this. If Trump wins or delays the election, the left will riot and a civil war will be triggered. Absolutely, right? Can't you see that happening? Conservatives will have to deal with the violence of the left while also dealing with the potential for martial law, which we cannot tolerate or support either. Oh, and real quick, shout out to the Facebook moderators. I found out that you guys watch these. So, how you doing? Hope you're enjoying it. If Biden wins, it will be perceived by many conservatives who still think elections matter as a stolen presidency engineered through fraudulent ballot practices. So essentially what the author is saying is we have a false choice. We either choose Marxism or we choose fascism. We can either bow to the left, give them everything that they want, become subservient to our leftist masters, and we will get full-blown collectivism, Marxism. Or we can fight fire with fire and turn to Trump and say, please save us, and inflate government and institute martial law, and we'll get fascism, we'll get heavy-handed government. The truth is, in 2021, we stand at a massive nexus point in human history. We are spiraling into a decade and a fight that will decide the fate of liberty for the next century or more. On one side stands the global elites and the useful idiots, I would say, and their useful idiots on the hard left. They will push for a collectivist system that erases all memory of our constitutional republic we once knew. And they will get help from fake conservatives that value power over principle. Fox News Inc., Ben Shapiro, and all the fakey conservatives, the Rubin Report, all these guys, Glenn Beck, The Blaze, those who really are profiting off of Conservative Inc., not really caring about the principles of the movement. On the other side stands the people that just want to be left alone. The free minds. The people that don't need or desire to have power over anybody. So true. It's the reason why people be like, well, if you work really hard in this sales job, you might be able to go into management. And I'm like, that's a really crappy idea. Why would I want to do that? So I could be a boss of somebody? I feel very uncomfortable being in charge of other people. And I feel like that's a virtue. And I'm not virtue signaling. I'm trying to make the point that I'm of the people that the author mentioned last. Just leave me the heck alone. I don't want anything from the government, and I just don't want to be bothered. Moving along, Fox News is reporting Oregon politician confesses to penning anonymous racist letter to himself. So this is some Hispanic failed politician in Oregon who literally wrote a letter to himself about you Mexicans need to go home, or I don't know, something about he aimed towards Hispanic people. He literally apologized and then erased his Facebook page. I just thought that was funny. It's like real racism doesn't exist, so we have to make it up. The revolutionradio.org, Biden promises to diversify America's suburbs even more than Obama did. Bring on the crime. Biden and his party have embraced yet another dream of the radical left, a federal takeover, transformation, and the de facto urbanization of America's suburbs, writes Stanley Kurtz for the National Review. Clean, safe suburban neighborhoods will quickly become a thing of the past. And the point of the article is that if suburban Democrats understood this, they would not be supporting Biden, because it doesn't matter how many times you refuse to take the plastic bag at Trader Joe's and bring your bag. It doesn't matter how many times you recycle. It doesn't matter how many coexist stickers you put on the back of your gas efficient vehicle. You are never, ever, ever, ever going to be comfortable with having your way of life destroyed. You're never going to just hand over your HOA neighborhood over to MS-13. You're not going to do it, guys. I know you're not. You actually, at the end of the day, are too selfish at worst, too virtuous and loving of your family at best, to hand over your entire way of life to the tabernacle of leftism, so that as your neighborhood gets overrun by guys who just got out of prison, you will not be saying to yourself, well, at least Trump lost. No, you're going to be worried about your safety, like the woman in Atlanta who called the police and was told that police aren't going to go because it was a state sanctioned protest. And the protesters ended up shooting and I believe killing her child or her, don't quote me on this, but it ended in tragedy. I saw this in North County, San Diego. Very, very nice neighborhood. Those of you who are familiar with North County, Forest Ranch is outside of where my folks live in Rancho Bernardo. Beautiful neighborhood. They put a low-income apartment complex, two of them that I'm aware of, right in this exclusive neighborhood. And it was during the Obama era with some HUD legislation. And I saw it firsthand, the characters that were walking around and the weirdness that it created in a once beautiful suburb. See, people work hard and produce to be able to move into neighborhoods that are clean and safe. It's called the American dream. It's called upward mobility. And the architects of society want to re-engineer that clearly. All male voting threatens election security, study finds according to WorldNet Daily. The Honest Elections Project's new report cites 2012 data from the Pew Center concluding that 4 million voter registrations, 1 in 8 nationwide, are invalid or inaccurate. That includes 2.75 million duplicates and 1.8 million dead voters. So bottom line is that if you want to steal an election, you're going to push for mail-in voting. And what are the Democrats doing? They're pushing for mail-in voting. So if the research, since the pro-science crowd always likes to go to statistics and data as their moral compass, then they would be obliged to not push for mail-in votes. I don't know why my face is itching. Maybe I got COVID-21. Great news. Before we go into great news, let me flip the camera. Hopefully I have some more juice now. Okay, cool. Supreme Court upholds right of Christian schools to hire Christian teachers, lifenews.com. So the ruling means that Catholic schools are free to hire and fire teachers who teach or fail to teach basic faith principles to their students. It's a big win for religious freedom and freedom of conscience. If you remember, there was some nuns who during the Obama administration, under the Obamacare mandates, were forced to provide abortifacients, Plan B, that type of thing, which violated their moral conscience. And so they were vindicated today, thankfully to the Supreme Court, who said we are still a country that has a right to religious liberty and a right to our own conscience. Great news. July 8th is a good day. Gannett syndication service by USA Today is reporting a gut punch. United Airlines to lay off up to 36,000 U.S. employees in October as safe travel remains depressed. Now, obviously that's bad. Anybody who's employed with United Airlines, that's bad. It's a bigger indicator of what's happening in the global economy, what's happening to travel. But in the story, buried in the story, was the bigger story, which is that United Airlines received 3.5 billion, B as in big boy, grant and $1.5 billion loan for payroll protection. So I thought the whole point of the payroll protection was protect the payroll. You feels me, folks? You smells me? You smells me? The Liberty Daily is reporting Christians pushback at tyrannical dictate from Democrat California Governor Gavin Newsom that bans singing in churches. So you guys have probably already heard this. You can put on a communist shirt. You can take a crowbar into black neighborhoods and attack black businesses, yell racist things, hold up racist signs, and that's not a big deal. But if you praise the God who's alive in church, the one who rose from the dead, that's a bad thing. Robert Tyler, Advocates for Faith and Freedom, called it arbitrary, capricious, and tyrannical. There is no jurisdiction to discriminate against churches. I'm sorry, Joker, Governor Joker. You cannot do that. You don't have the power to do that. You are going to be judged in history. It's so contradictory. Liberty Counsel founder and chairman Matt Staver also weighed in saying, quote, Governor Newsom's restrictions on religious activity is unconstitutional. The state has no authority to direct the manner and form of worship. It is beyond the competence and the authority of the state to ban singing and chanting in houses of worship. The hypocrisy is most evident when you see the same governor banning singing and chanting in religious services while encouraging the same activity in mass protests. Portland under siege by Antifa and other left-wing terrorists, reports SGT report, the corporate propagandist. I love their subline. So for 39 straight days, gays, no pun intended, y'all gay. I didn't know this, but Portland has been under siege for 39 days. See, I was focused on Chaz because I was waiting for things to get better so I could, plan my family vacation to the Chop. And, it had to get ruined. But while I was planning my vacation to the Chop, Portland had been under siege for 39 straight days. And apparently just recently, they're heavily armed, attacking federal courthouses, a police precinct, and several businesses. And you know what the mayor of Portland said? The protesters are, quote, justifiably angry, hurting, and frustrated. So clearly, counterculture is not going to be skirting around the issue. I'm just going to start calling it what it is. We have civil leadership, mayors, governors in power that are clearly identifying with the criminals and are accessories to the overthrow of this republic. I don't know how else to be more descriptive. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think it's an accurate and fair assessment when federal courthouses and police stations are under siege by armed citizens. Like, can you imagine if that would have been Trump supporters going after during the Obama era? I mean, unimaginable. WorldNet Daily is reporting Yeezy, Kanye West says white supremacists brought Planned Parenthood to cities to do devil's work. Quote, Planned Parenthood has been placed inside cities by white supremacists to do the devil's work, he said. Quote, I am pro-life because I'm following the word of the Bible, he told the publication. And he defended himself. I'm not going crazy. I'm going Yeezy. So I'm going to tell my wife next time. She's like, are you going crazy? I'm like, girl, I'm going Yeezy. Kanye. Making it interesting, huh? Government Slaves is reporting Ghislaine Maxwell plans to share secret stash of recorded evidence used to blackmail Epstein's friends. You guys, she knows where all the bodies are buried. And she'll use whatever she has to save her own booty. You guys remember that R. Kelly song back in the 2000s? Booty. I need to keep this PG. Epstein's former employer, Stephen Hoffenberg, said that Maxwell knows everything and will totally cooperate after her arrest. So I think there's a lot of powerful people not getting very good sleep. I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight, you guys, because I wasn't on Lolita Express. I don't have to look behind my shoulder every day. I got a clear conscience, and I hope you do too. It's a beautiful life to live when you just live honestly and simply. I'm imperfect. But man, these guys with their billions of dollars and their political connections, they must be living miserably. What really happened by the great Mike Rivero? Texas County to arrest COVID-19 positive residents who refuse to self isolate. So even in South Texas, they're going to come get you for not obeying governor's orders. LifeNews.com, Missouri Governor Mike Parson signs bill sending $6 million to centers saving babies from abortion. So this is another great piece of news, you guys. As evil rises, so does the tide, and goodness and righteousness and truth will rise with it. That is my belief, and this article is evidence of that. 6.46 million in Missouri's state budget to support mothers who choose life for their babies and choose not to murder them so that they can go to college and pursue their career so they can be in a cubicle and then find out when they're 43 that they don't have any eggs and can't get pregnant. These organizations provide free services including pregnancy tests and prenatal care, counseling and job training, diapers and cribs, clothing, food, temporary shelter, and more. Shout out to Missouri. I see you, Missouri. Fox News is reporting the UN accuses Trump of breaking international law in the Soleimani killing. Well, did you guys accuse Obama of breaking international law when he was using drone strikes on American and foreigners? What about U.S. intervention in Iraq and Libya? I think the UN is an entity of the globalists. If you don't believe me, read The 5,000 Year Miracle. It's a great book that really woke me up to the globalist agenda and what is the United Nations. But guess what? Trump put a MC Hammer, can't touch this. Okay, I'm going to have to juice up again. It was an MC Hammer move by Trump because guess what? He withdrew from the UN. All right, guys. For those of you watching on Facebook, I'm going to have to lean like a cholo again. I'm sorry. That's what happens when you don't charge your phone before a broadcast. Actually, my tablet. LifeNews.com, Supreme Court upholds Trump's order protecting little sisters from funding abortions. We already talked about that. These 18 corporations gave money to the radical Black Lives Matter group. So, guys, I just want to go through a really quick list. So, and by the way, we're at 32 minutes. I failed once again. So I'm just going to keep going because I already prepared for this. So if you guys still want to roll with me, let's roll. DoorDash, Deckers, Amazon, Gatorade, Microsoft, Glossier, 23andMe, Airbnb, Unilever, which owns Degree and Axe, Bungie, Nabisco, Dropbox, Fitbit, Devolver Digital, Skillshare, Square Enix, That Game Company, Tinder, Ambiguous Giving. I think they own Pokemon. I don't know. What is that? California-based tech firm Cisco identifies. I don't know. Hold on, guys. Hold up. I think that was it. Yeah, that was 18 corporations. So, anyways, you guys have a running list now of who not to do business with. Sucks because I really like Airbnb. That was my favorite one. I guess I'll still use Airbnb. Does that make me a hypocrite? Kind of, I guess. Yeah. Maybe I'll go to Air. Oh yeah, there's the Air that other one. VRBO. Government slaves is reporting massive protests rock Serbian capital after new COVID-19 lockdown announcement. Serbia has risen, you guys. If you happen to go to Government Slaves and look at this article, the videos are fascinating. If anybody's into like crazy protest videos, call it protest porn. I guess that makes me part of that camp because I find myself just enamored with these protest videos. Out of control. Apparently the Serbian people don't put up with nothing. And it goes beyond the COVID lockdowns. Apparently that's some of the worst in Europe. But they're also very opposed to NATO and the globalism that's happening. And they probably see a connection between the COVID and the globalism. And apparently Serbia is probably a little further ahead than the United States. They've denounced Vučić, who I guess is their leader, as a NATO lackey and his government as a colony. So Serbia is rising. Politico is reporting Trump threatens to cut federal funds from schools that don't reopen. DeVos, the head of education, has also come out today and said that she's considering that. And the indication from the Trump administration is that we better get our kids back in school in the fall. And I know all the moms who don't homeschool are like, yes and amen. The Federalist Papers by Jonathan Jones and the Western Journals reporting ABC blames a luxury car for killing white BLM protester, excludes the fact that the driver was black. If it was a white guy with the MAGA hat driving an F-150, do you think ABC might have mentioned that? Maybe? Yeah, of course. But it's a black dude, so it's a luxury car killed a white BLM protester. Coyote and Roadrunner, you guys. The Coyote and the Roadrunner. Washington Compost is reporting protests erupt in Phoenix after viral video shows police fatally shooting man in car. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, Phoenix is going to Oh, it's July. No, they're not going to protest, dude. It's too hot. Have you been to Phoenix in the summertime? Lord have mercy. You could fry an egg on the sidewalk. 2 Californians charged with hate crime for painting over Black Lives Matter mural. So basically, you are going to face... So with a straight face, the state of California is going to charge people who are cleaning up graffiti, which is my opinion of it, as a hate crime because of the messaging. That is a dangerous legal precedent. And I wasn't far off, you guys. We're at 36 minutes and 23 seconds, and this is my last article. So let me undo the umbilical cord there. Trump administration gives formal notice of withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Is the coronavirus killing the World Health Organization? Trump's administration submits notice and officially has withdrawn. You guys, I think this is great because the World Health Organization is another global entity. The CDC, from what I can tell, takes their marching orders from the World Health Organization. We as patriotic, independent Americans should be opposed to any sort of encroachment of any sort of global power. And thank you, President Trump, for actually putting your money where your mouth is and taking action like a leader should and withdrawing us from these global entanglements. So that is all I got for today. It was fun. I feel like it was a little bit better than it was before, you guys. We're at 37 minutes. Thank you for listening. For those of you on Facebook, thank you for watching. The podcast can be found on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Overcast, all the major podcast players. The website is aaronlujan.com, and I want to draw your attention to the subscribe button. I promised to make this announcement a couple days ago, and I forgot. I had mentioned that I am going to attempt to give you alternative ways to keep up with the podcast, and I believe text messaging is a great way to do that. And so what I have on my website is a form where you can enter your name and your phone number. There will come a day where I may not be on Facebook, not because of my choice, but because of Mr. Zuckerberg. I may not be on some of these podcast players that you listen to your podcast to. I really don't think my website's going to go away, but if I have your phone number, no matter what happens to any of the platforms that I'm on, I'll be able to find you. I'll text you and I'll say, hey there, dude. We can still communicate this way. Here, go to this platform, go to that platform. So if you like what you are hearing or seeing, please go to aaronlujan.com, click on the subscribe button, enter in your name and your phone number, and we'll text. We'll be text buddies. That's all I got for today, you guys. Take care. I feel like I should start leaving you guys positive messages. Be kind. Just individual kindness at the cashier, to your neighbor that doesn't want to talk to you. Both my neighbors are nice, but they never say hello first. So I'm just always like, hi, Tony. And they'll respond. Maybe it made her day. So I would encourage you guys to do that. Just all this craziness that we're hearing about, we can counter all of this by just simple kindness to strangers. That would be my message for the day. And I wish I had that little animation that you used to see on PBS. The more you know. Thanks, guys. Peace.